introduction. Myself, I've had an interest with the paranormal from as long as I can remember, at least from the age of 5. At that age, I've never had any paranormal experiences. I just was interested in it. Age 8, 9-year-old, the Osborne book of ghosts, UFOs, and monsters came out. I just love that book. Did my first investigation at the age of 10, 1980. That I'd read in the papers about Sigmund Adamski, who had been found on the top of the coal pits in Todmorden. I decided I was going to go and do an investigation with my nephew. It's not my nephew, my cousin. He was a pain in the backside cousin. I thought, we'll go and do an investigation. I'll take a camera, notebook. He is going to be bait to try and attract aliens. Aliens come down, abduct him. I get the photos. It's a win-win. Never happened. Anyway, jump forward. I have been a member of Twilight Worlds, a paranormal research society in South Shields for 23 years now. I've had the pleasure of being the chairman for at least 12 years. And I've had the pleasure of being able to join Assap as well. Amazing group, as everybody knows. 2022, I started the Durham Ghost Walks, walking with the ghosts of Durham. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it is. I thought interest wouldn't be very much. Few walks, and that would be it. 3 years later, I'm still doing it. Real good. I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, tonight I'm going to give you some of the ghost stories. Some of them which I like, some of them are funny, and some have got. I may have found answers to one or two. I'm not too sure, but anyway, I'm going to jump straight on to the biggest place, Durham Cathedral. Now, Durham Cathedral, it was built in 1093, between 1093 and 1133. Now, most important person there is St. Cuthbert. St. Cuthbert, a saint, his relics are buried in there, but he has got a lot of legends about him. And one of the ones I find really interesting is from 1942. Now, in 1942, the Luftwaffe started its second bomb campaign. This was called the Baedeker campaign, and the Luftwaffe were using books, tourist information books, published by the Baedeker Publications Company. That company's still going, and they still publish the tourist information books. Now, these books, they listed all sites of interest in a city and also give them maps. So the Luftwaffe used these books to plan the targets. April 24th, 1942, they bombed Exeter. April 28th, they bombed York. May the 1st, 1942, they headed up, they flew in from Sunderland, the harbour area in Sunderland, followed the River Weir along. Some of the planes stayed around Sunderland. Some of the planes went to South Shields and Newcastle shipbuilding. 36 planes followed the River Weir along. The plan was to bomb the cathedral, the castle, the viaduct. We're going to bomb the city of Durham. It's a full moon. It should have been an easy night for them. They're flying in. 2 a.m. in the morning, the area siren sounds. Now, as the siren sounded, it said that was a mist raised, covered the castle, covered the cathedral, covered the viaduct, covered a 2-mile radius of Durham. Bombers fly around, they can't find the targets, they have to drop the bombs somewhere. Giles Gate Moor, Framble Gate Moor, a lot of the bombs were dropped there. Finkel Abbey, some of the pilots mistook Finkel Abbey. Now it's just a small ruin. A great place to have a look. It's about 5 miles northeast of Durham. Pilots mistook that for Durham Cathedral. Some of the bombs were dropped there. Luckily, there was only a few garden sheds damaged. Good fishing spot because one of the bombs left a big crater, and a lot of fishermen go for that crater because it's a nice deep pool. Bombers fly out, 4 a.m. in the morning. The area siren sounds for the all clear. As the siren sound, that mist drops, dispersing clears. Now, 1945, a reporter from the Northern Echo, he starts going around and asking area wardens about any sites of interest, any stories of interest. 5 independent wardens all tell of the night of May the 1st, 1942, when that mist rose and covered the castle, the cathedral, and the viaduct. That reporter called that mist St. Cuthbert's mist, and he said because St. Cuthbert's relics are within the cathedral's built around him, St. Cuthbert had raised that mist to protect himself and protect the townsfolk of Durham. Now, explanation I can give for that is Durham Cathedral is surrounded on 3 sides by a river. Warm day, followed by a cold night, and you do get a mist rising. But like I said, this mist rose exactly 2 a.m. as the air raid sirens sounded, dropped 4 a.m. as the all clear has been sounded. So you got a total fluke of nature or St. Cuthbert's mist, and I know which one I like. I mean, I could be biased because I'm coming from Durham anyway, but I do like that one. Staying with the cathedral, this is not a ghost story. It's just a bit of history, but not a lot of people know about it. Durham Cathedral, it has a prison cell. Now, this prison cell was for monks who got a bit carried away with the holy wine, or there is another cell for monks who committed worse crimes. And in this cell, the monks would usually be chained to the wall or chained to the floor and would be left to die. But it was in 1650, Durham Cathedral was used as a large prison. Now, Oliver Cromwell, he is fighting the Scots at Dunbar. He defeats the Scots and he starts marching 10,000 Scots south. 4,000 of them go to the west. 6,000 he marches to the northeast. He gets to Prudhoe, and at Prudhoe, the Scottish soldiers are starving. So they rush into a field full of cabbages. They grab the cabbages, start eating them. They were like locusts, just covered the field, just decimated the field. A little while later, you know what cabbage does to you? A little while later, as they're going along, it started to have its effect. From Prudhoe to Durham, nearly 2,000 Scots died of dysentery. The cabbages were covered in soil, but also covered with muck. Horse muck, cow muck, and human muck. The soldiers were just eating dirt, muck, feces, everything. And sadly, that had an effect on them. So 2,000 died from Prudhoe to Durham. 4,000 of them are housed in Durham Cathedral. They are housed in there for nearly 2 years. While they're in there, they do a lot of damage. They burn a lot of the wood to keep the cells warm, smash a load of the statues, the arms and legs off, use them as hot stones. Of the 4,000 who were housed in there, only 1,700 got out alive. And of them 1,700, was 130 was shipped abroad to Boston. Now, their descendants every so often come back to Durham to visit Durham Cathedral, the place where their ancestors were imprisoned. Like I say, there's not many people know about that's happening, and it is an important part of history. Anyway, jumping away from that, the tower, if you've ever been to Durham Cathedral, if you go at the top of the tower, it is a real good place. A nice climb up. It gives you a great view around the city. It is not for the faint-hearted. There's 325 steps to get to the top. It is a hard climb, but when you get to the top, it's well worth it to see. But the top of the tower, over the years, there has been a few people fall from the tower. Back in the 1620s, there was a man who jumped off the top of the tower. 1620, 2 men in a pub. We all know, get men in pubs and have a few pints, we do come up with daft ideas. These 2 men were talking about jumping off the top of the cathedral. Said if they make a soft enough landing, they should be able to survive. So the next day they come up, they make themselves a soft landing. One goes up the top of the tower. He gets to the top, he jumps himself off, hits the soft landing, and he survives. People in the crowd, as he's getting out, somebody shouts, "I bet you can't do that again." He says, "Watch this, hold me hat and I'll go and do it again." He goes back up, gets to the top of the tower. While he's going up, his wife's at the bottom. She says to the crowd, look, my husband, the last time he jumped off, he nearly hit his head off the side. Go and move the target just a bit that way. So when he jumps, he's not going to hit his head. The crowd move the target. He goes up. Unbeknown, the target's been known. Aims for the same spot. Bang, splat, he's dead. Now, every so often, people say that you see a figure of a man jumping off the top of the cathedral. You see him falling on the ground, hitting the floor. Then he stands up and he starts looking around, and he's not very happy. I think he's looking for his wife. He's not very happy with her for moving the target. The next one, again in the 1630s, is a tightrope walker. Now, the Bishop of Durham, he puts on entertainment. He's raised the taxes of Durham, and the townsfolk are not very happy about the Bishop of Durham raising the taxes. Like us today, if the government raises the taxes, if it's too much, we are not too happy. Same with Durham. So the bishop, trying to appease them, what they do is he gives them a 2 days holiday, puts food, drink, entertainment on, acrobats, circus performers. One of the circus performers is a tightrope walker who's walking backwards and forwards from one side of the cathedral to the other, high up in the air. He's doing this great all day long. On the afternoon, sadly, there's a freak gust of wind, overbalances him, and that knocks him off, and sadly, he dies. Now, the Bishop of Durham commissioned a local stonemason to make the gravestone of that man, and the stone had a man lying on it, and he's holding a bag of money. The bishop had never gotten the chance to pay him in life, so he wanted to make sure he was paid in death. He's probably been superstitious, thinking that the ghost, because he hasn't been able to pay him, the ghost has come back to haunt him, so try and pay him in the afterlife. Now, that tombstone, which is just outside of the cathedral doors, the main doors you go through, as you're walking along, it is on your left-hand side. There's a tombstone with that man holding the money. The money bag itself now has been worn down because people rub it a lot. And also, when it's raining, the way the rain falls on it, it looks like there's coins on top of the gravestone. Another one is the bell ringer. Again, this is from about the 1630s. There's a lot of these stories, these three stories about people falling off or disappearing, all around the 1630s. Now, this one is the bell ringer. Ring the bell, curfew, 9 o'clock at night. People hear the noise and have somebody screaming and shouting, rush down through the cathedral to see what's going on. They see the bell ringer disappearing through the roof of the cathedral. Something is carrying and pulling them out. People outside, as they're going home, they see this winged creature coming out the top of the cathedral, carrying the bell ringer. In another version of the story, the bell ringer, it's a Sunday morning, he's ringing the bells for morning worship, when all of a sudden he starts screaming and shouting, and people inside see him disappearing out the top. People outside see a winged creature carrying the bell ringer out and carrying him away. Now, they said it was the devil. He was sick of being woken up on the Sunday morning by them blasted bells. That bell, that tower itself, it never rang again. That was about 1636. That bell never rang again. They moved the bells from there to the main tower, and they said that's what the reason was. The real reason was 1636. There was a thunderstorm. One of the lightning strikes hit the tower with the bell in, caused a lot of damage, and they decided, for the safety of the bells, if they moved it to the main tower, the middle tower, it would be safer. But that story evolved around about the bell ringer disappearing out the top. Now, the next one is Durham Cathedral. Durham Castle. If you could move the next slide, please, CJ. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. If you go back one. Durham Castle, right, that was built in 1072. Now, the castle itself, it has two two ghost stories. One is of the Grey Lady. It's amazing how many buildings in and around Durham have the Grey Lady. Now, this Grey Lady, she was the bishop's wife. She loved to go up the staircase, the black staircase in the castle. She'd love to walk all the way up to the top to look out the windows out the top because it gives you a great view. Now, sadly, she either had a heart attack or she slipped and fell and sadly she died. After that, people would see a lady walking up that staircase up the top. Back in 1990, there was a circus on the Hippodrome Circus on the Palace Green. They were there for 5 days. After the 5 days, the manager of the circus donated half the takings to the castle as a thank you. Palace Green is owned by the university. The castle itself is owned by the university. The castle is where a lot of students stay. So the circus performer donated this money as a thank you to the university for allowing to be on Palace Green. He sends over a clown by the name of Spuggy the Clown. The big check, when you go advertising, you've got these big checks. Spuggy the Clown goes up to the castle, hands over the check, reporters are there taking photos. The reporters go, and he's left with the manager of the castle, and the manager says, do you want to have a look around the castle? If you have a walk around, I'll tell you what we're going to be doing, where you're going to spend the money. He says, in fact, if you go up the staircase, the black staircase, or the flying staircase, he says, if you go up the top, he says, when you get to the top, come back down. He says, I'll tell you where all that money's going to go to. So Spuggy goes up there, he comes back down, and he says, when I was going up the stairs, he says, I followed a woman all the way up the top, but right at the top, there was nobody there. The manager says, yeah, you've seen the Grey Lady of the castle. Now, Durham Castle, this time of year, the students have just left. Durham Castle is now opening up wedding parties. They have weddings at the castle. People can stay in the castle. If you want to stay at the castle, look for booking it, but there is a 2-year waiting list. People will be there having a wedding. Let's see a woman walking up the staircase. They think it's one of the wedding party, so they start to follow her. See where she's going, follow her all at the top. She's not there. She's disappeared. Sometimes the cleaners see this woman walking up and down the stairs. Now, the description is of a woman, always seen from the back, with a long floating skirt. I think it might not be a woman. I think it might be one of the bishops. Now, the bishops, there is a story of one of the bishops from the 1600s. He was very flamboyant. He liked to show off. And this staircase, the way it is built, it has got very shallow steps. So when he was walking up the steps or walking down with his long gown on, it looked like he was floating down the staircase. Now, if he was having a reception, he had all his guests right at the bottom waiting for him at the bottom, and he'd come down the staircase, and it would make it look as though he's gliding down the staircase. The description of this woman going up and down the staircase is gliding or floating. The gliding or floating. They're describing her as a woman, long dress. I think they're seeing the bishop, who is still gliding down that staircase, still showing off. The next one is a very sad tale. That is of one of the students, one of the first students to stay at the castle. He was Frederick Courtman. This is 1834. Durham Cathedral has just been donated to the university as residence for the students. The bishop itself, up until then, the bishop lived at Durham Cathedral. He's donated the castle to the university. He's gone to Auckland Castle. Anyway, one of these students, Frederick Courtman, he's there for 3 years. On his final year, he never leaves his room. Only time he comes out of his room is to go to lectures, go for food, or go to the library. He doesn't socialise. He doesn't go out drinking. He doesn't go out having fun. All he's doing is revising. His family has paid a lot of money to get him into the cathedral, sorry, in the castle, in the university. He doesn't want to let his family down, so he's studying every day. CJ, can you put it on the next slide, please? So he's in there every day. Comes to exam time. I don't know about you. I know when I sat my exams, I went into the exams and I came out and I thought I'd failed. Fred Copeman did the same. He went into the exams, he sat them, came out, he started thinking about what he'd wrote. Oh, I should have wrote that. I should have said that. The more he thought about it, the more he thought he hadn't passed his exams. Day comes to exam results day. Them 4 boards you can see there now. There's a tradition of the students, university students. When it is results day, the results of the exams are put on notes on them 4 boards you can see there. They still do it today, but now most of the students know how they've done before the notices go up. But it's just a tradition, so they still go to have a look at them notice boards to see the names on the boards. Anyway, Frederick Copeman, he comes down to check to see how he's doing in the exams. He's waiting in the big crowd, all the other university students. Waits his turn, waiting. Then eventually gets a chance to check the boards. Checks the boards, can't see his name. He checks them again. He still can't see his name. Third time, checks again. He realizes he's failed his exams. He goes back to the room, starts pacing up and down. His friends, roommates either side of him, people below him, can hear him just pacing down all day long. All through the night, he's pacing down. The next day, he comes out his room, locks the door, leaves his key in the door, walks out the castle gate. He walks along to the cathedral. Sadly, he goes right up the tower and throws himself off. He kills himself. He's let his family down. He's failed his exam. He's got nothing to live for. He kills himself. He's buried. All the commotion settled down. One of the bursars comes to take the notices off them signboards. While he's taking the notices off, he takes one notice off and he realizes whoever's putting the notices on has covered 3 names. One of the 3 names, what's being covered, is Frederick Copeman's. He had passed his exams. He was supposed to be one of the top students in the university, but he never knew that. He thought he failed. Now, his room was room 21. Room 21, and the next year when the student went in, the student would hear somebody pacing up and down. All night long, that's all they could hear, somebody pacing up and down. Their moods would start to go black and get black and worse, and the depression would build around them. Eventually, they went to see if they could move room. Once they moved room, everything was okay. They didn't hear any noise, and the moods lifted. Every student who went in had the same effect or the same feeling. Could hear somebody pacing up and down, and the moods dropped. Eventually, the university stopped using that room as a room for the students, and they made it into a storage room. It is now, I've been told, it is now the bar secretary's room for the castle. And yeah, sometimes he hears noises, but he doesn't get that feeling of depression when he's in there. Now, the building, the doorway there, that is the library of the cathedral. If you move along to the next slide, CG, I think that is the courthouse. Yeah, that building there, that is just slightly to the left of where them notice boards are, and that was the old courthouse. Now, this courthouse, back in 1627, that had a very interesting case. There is a young lady by the name of Annie Walker. No, not the one from Coronation Street. This was a bit earlier. She lived in the Lumley village. She lived with her uncle, William Walker. She'd moved there to help with housekeeping of William Walker's house, but her and her uncle started a relationship, and Annie eventually fell pregnant. Now, William said to Annie, look, you can't stay here because people will talk. People will talk, and you can't. You're going to have to move. He said, I know a place where you can go. Take you there. I'll get someone to take you there. You stay at that house. When I get everything sorted out here, I will come and join you. Nobody knows it's really there. They don't know that you're my niece. We'll get married. We'll live as a family. So she agrees to this, and he says, right, a friend of mine, Mark Sharp, will meet you and take you to this new place. Mark Sharp meets her just outside of Lumley Village and starts taking her to this new house. Sadly, Mark Sharp has not been paid to take Annie Walker to the new house. Mark Sharp's been paid to kill Annie Walker. Takes her down by the riverside in Chesley Street. He kills her and dumps her body down an old pit. There's a mill in Lumley Village. The mill owner at the time was a man by the name of James Grime. Now, James Grime, he's working late one night when he's just about to finish, when he gets this vision of this woman. This woman is covered in mud and blood, all matted to her face. She comes in, she says, please, please help us. My body is in a dark, dank hole. My body is rotten. My killers are walking free. Please help us. James says he will help. He says that he'll go to the authorities the next day. Next day comes and he's thinking, oh, I've been working too hard. He does nothing about it. He stops working late on a night. Work starts building up, so he decides he has to start working late on a night again. Starts working late on a night again. He gets that vision again. That woman comes to him again. This time her hair is caked to her face. It's all dried. The blood's all dried. The mud's all dried. Please, please help us. My body is in a cold, dark, dank hole. My killers are still walking free. Please, please help us. Please tell the authorities. James agrees that...
Oh, I'm just sorting out my thing. My beard's sore. Just coming back in a sec.
He agrees to go to the authorities. Again, he doesn't do anything about it. Annie Walker comes and prays to him one more time. This time, she comes to his house. And as he's going to bed, she appears at the end of the bed and she starts screaming at him. She says, if you do not go and tell the authorities of my murder, I will forever haunt you. You will never get any sleep. Your family will never sleep again in the house. James says, I can't go. If I go to the authorities to tell, they're going to think I'm the killer. Annie Walker says that the murder weapon and the shirt of Mark Sharp and his boots are hidden in a hole in the wall of the bank side of the river. James, the next day, he goes to the authority. He tells the authority. The authorities go with him to where he's been told the weapon is and the shirt and the boots. They find them, and they do belong to Mark Sharp. Mark Sharp is arrested for this murder. He eventually gives up William Walker. He's thinking, if I'm going to go down for this, so are you. So he gives up William Walker as well. That courthouse there, you can see now, that's where they were tried. When he's tried there, where they both tried there, there's a big crowd there watching. As the court case is going on, all of a sudden, this figure of a woman appears in the courthouse. A lot of people in the courthouse panic. They're seeing a ghost. Some of them run. The judge, he wants to run, but he thinks, hold on, I'm in charge of the court. I cannot run. He gets order, and then he says to the woman, have you got fair reason to be in this courthouse? She just nods. Are you Annie Walker? She nods again. Are the killer or killers of you in this room? Annie points to Mark Sharp and her uncle, William Walker. The judge says, I've got no choice. I will have to find you both guilty. Your victim has come and point you both out from the afterlife. Right. Now, on the walks and that, when I take you around, there's a few pubs we pass. And, you know, pubs are good for spirits, nice whiskey or something like that. There's one, they're called the Shakespeare pub. Now, when you're walking around, there's a notice on there. Was built 1166. It was originally called the Oyster and Groom. Now it's called the Shakespeare Pub. Reason it's called the Shakespeare Pub now, behind it there used to be a theatre which put on Shakespearean plays. One of the actors there was a man by the name of Stephen Kemble. Stephen Kemble, once he packed in being an actor, he took over ownership as a landlord of the Shakespeare Pub. Now, this pub, on the notice board as well, it says it's one of the most haunted pubs in Britain. Like one of the most haunted pubs in Britain, what you find, there's not much about it. There is one story of the sewing machine in the back room. As you go into the pub, you've got a little snug area. Now, when you go into the snug area, they've got one of them old Singer sewing machines. It hasn't got the sewing machine on the top now, but it's got the old pedal on, where you would press with your foot. And people have sometimes gone into that room and seen the pedal moving, so somebody's pressing it, moving in that way. Now, the way the table is and that, there could be that there is a mechanism inside, so every so often somebody in the bar, the pub itself, or one of that could flick a switch to make it work. But you would have to take the desk apart to see. But people do see that moving. Also, there is the feel of... Also, there's a feel of a cat supposed to wander past you. Like I say, it is on the notice board, one of the most haunted pubs in Durham. There's a lot more haunted pubs than that. And one of them is the one I'm going to tell you about now. Now, anybody who's been to Durham, if you come across Elved Bridge, that is the second oldest bridge in Durham. As you come across, there's a lot of shops, a lot of restaurants on that bridge. And one of the restaurants, or one of the pubs on that bridge, is called Jimmy Allen's. Jimmy Allen's, CJ, can you move the... Jump on two, please. Sorry, yeah, forgot about the slides. Next one. Right, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Jimmy Allen, the Duke's Piper. Now, Jimmy Allen, that pub, you can see the purple door. You can see the arches. It's underneath the arches of the bridge. That originally was Bridlewell prison cell. There was a prison there. When you go into Jimmy Allen's, yeah, you usually have to go, you have to go from the top, you go down, you can go in the cellar bar. The cellar bar was originally prison cells for Bridlewell prison. On my walks, every so often, I do get a chance to take people on my walk into Jimmy Allen's when they're quiet, and we sometimes get a chance to walk up the tunnel, the alleyway, which was part of the prison cell. Now, that tunnel, that alleyway, went all the way from there, right away to the top of Elved Bridge. Then it diverts across to the marketplace. Goes underneath the marketplace. It comes out near to the courthouse next to the town hall. Now, there's an entrance there which takes you down to the marketplace. If you went down that entrance, you would come to a tattoo shop. That tattoo shop, it's been a few things. It's been a tattoo shop, a mobile phone shop, a hairdresser's, public toilets. First thing it was prison cells. So you're in the courthouse, the prison cells are underneath, where the tattoo shop is now. And then the tunnel led right way through the marketplace to Bridlewell prison, which is now Jimmy Allen's. Now, Jimmy Allen, he was a man, he was born in 1734 in Northumberland. At the age of 3 or 4, his father started to teach him how to play the Northumberland bagpipes. You'll all know Northumberland bagpipes, slightly different than the Scottish ones. You don't have the pipe itself, it's just off the bellows you play it. He became a renowned bagpipe player, and he became resident bagpipe player for Castle, the Percy family. His musical skills, he was renowned. Even today, if you go online onto YouTube and put in Jimmy Allen's The Duke's Piper, look for his music, you can find people who still play his music. Anyway, the Percy family loved his musical skills, but they didn't love his character. Percy family, a very religious Catholic family. Jimmy, a drinker, a gambler, womanizer. Loads of little Jimmys running about. Percy family said to him, look at Jimmy, you're going to have to change your ways or you'll have to be gone. He can't change his ways, so they had to say to him. Now, when he left, he was supposed to have left with a lot of money. All the maids who worked in Anna Castle, unbeknown to each other, give Jimmy some of their wages. Hey, Jimmy, you're going to be short of money. Just take that and make sure you're okay. So he left with a good wad of money. Travels around Europe. He goes to Asia, Russia. Joins the army 5 times. Gets into trouble. He'll just go and take the king's crown. When he thinks trouble's off, he'll leave or desert. Go back in again if he's in trouble again. No, that wasn't me. That was my brother. That was my cousin. I've never been in the army. He's arrested and imprisoned a load of times, and he escapes prison a load of times. A lot of the time, he was a very handsome man, young man, and he had the gift of the gab. The women or the wives of the jailers bring down the food. He'd be, oh, what's a young woman like you doing in a place like this? You should have fine clothes, fancy jewelry. You shouldn't be in a place like this. Yet, you know, if I could get out of here, I've got a bit of money put by. I'll make you sure you have the life what you deserve. Fine jewelry, nice clothes. You wouldn't be in a place like this. They swoon. They decide to go away with them, come down with the key, let them out. Jimmy gets out, doesn't take them with him. He's just off and away. Anyway, like I said, he travels around Europe. When he comes back to Britain, he comes back and starts doing something else he's very good at. Horse rustling, cattle rustling, and sheep rustling. Stealing horses, cattle, and sheep from Northumberland, bringing them into Durham, sell them in Durham, live off the money a bit. When the money's run down, he'll steal horses, cattle, and sheep from Durham and take them back to Northumberland. Chances are he's just bringing the same ones backwards and forwards. Age of 67. His luck runs out. He steals a horse at Gateshead. His plan is he's going to ride the horse to the borders and sell. Now, as he's riding this horse across to the borders, 5 miles short of Berwick, he's stopped in court. People realise there's a reward on his head, so take him to get the ransom, the reward. Now, Jimmy should have been taken to Berwick to be tried because he's 5 miles short of Berwick. If he had been, that's end of story. Because at the time, Berwick, their trial was very, very harsh. You're caught for a crime, you're hung. And then you're put on trial. If you're found guilty, well, when you were guilty, that's why you were hung, yeah. If you're found innocent, a letter sent home to your family, sorry about your loss. Jimmy's brought back to Durham. The person who's got him probably realised he'll make more money bringing him back to Durham than taking him to Berwick, so he brings him back to Durham. He is put up the court, which is in the marketplace. He's found guilty. The hangman at first the judge wants to hang him. But his friends, all Jimmy's friends there, say, look, he's an old man. You can't hang him. So the judge is right. He spent the rest of his life in prison. And he does. He spent 4 years of his life in the prison, which is the top of the Saddlegate Street, which was Owen-gate. He spent 4 years there. And then the last 3 years of his life, he spent in the cells, which are underneath Elford Bridge. People would come down, the well-to-do in Durham would come down, pay the jailer a bit of money, pop in and see Jimmy playing the bagpipes, give Jimmy a little bit of money to make sure his time in prison wasn't too bad. November the 14th, 1810. Sadly, Jimmy Allen dies. November the 18th. Sorry, November the 17th, 1810. There's a letter of pardon comes from the Prince Regent. The Prince Regent is doing the work for the king. And this is supposed to be one of the first letters the Prince Regent sends out. This is a pardon for Jimmy Allen. The letter of pardon itself is supposed to be in the University History Society department. Be interesting to have a look at that letter to see which famous people sent or asked for a pardon for him and what the king said. But Jimmy Allen's gone, he's dead, but people still hear bagpipes playing. Apparently in Jimmy Allen's, they would hear bagpipes playing. On the bridge, people would hear bagpipes playing. Late at night, nobody about, they're walking across the bridge, they'll hear bagpipes playing. One of the old managers, I stopped and I asked any unusual things happening here. And he says, there was one Sunday morning. He said, I'm doing a bit of paperwork. He says, all I can hear is bagpipes. He said, I go turn the radio up to drown it out. One of my colleagues come in. What you got the radio on so loud for? It's them blasted bagpipes, I can't concentrate. So there's nobody playing the bagpipes. So great, he's gone. There is a busker, plays the Northumberland bagpipes in Durham. He plays it on top of Elder Bridge. He plays it on the steps in the courthouse in the marketplace, and he also plays it on Framlegate Bridge. So the manager says, great, he's gone. Turns the radio down. He can hear bagpipes. So he says, look, I'm going outside. I'm going to tell him to move on. Pops outside. Nobody playing the bagpipes. Comes back in. All I can hear is bagpipes. So he says, start looking around the building to see where the music's coming from, where the sound's coming from. He says, we've got the top of the staircase, which leads us down into the cellar. We go down the staircase. He says, the sound's getting louder and louder. The tunnel, what I told you about, which would take you along to the marketplace, he says, we're going up there. He says, as we went up there, he says, the sound got louder and louder. He says, right at the top of the cell, what he was always told, that was Jimmy Allen's cell. It sounded was so somebody was in there playing the bagpipes. But nobody there. Now, the new manager, he took over in 2020. We know what happened in 2020, but I asked him any unusual things happened. He says, well, I've never heard the bagpipes. But he says, we do have funny things happening. Now, the bagpipes, up until 15 years ago in the marketplace, if you've ever visited Durham, there is a big statue in the marketplace of a man on a horse. And this statue, up till 15 years ago, was in the middle of the marketplace. When they moved it and they dug the foundations up of the statue, the foundations went over the top of this tunnel. So when they've dug it all up, that tunnel's collapsed. So they had to fill it all in. So all the marketplace, all the tunnel going through, they had to fill in. Up until 15 years ago, in the pub in Jimmy Allen's, people would hear the bagpipes. After that statue's been moved, nobody's ever heard the bagpipes in Jimmy Allen's. The steps where the busker stands, he is standing right on top of the tunnel. Could have been an echo effect. He's standing on top of the tunnel. Was the sound travelling along? And was that the original manager? Was that what he was hearing? The sound of the bagpipes from the busker playing at the steps. Like I say, since he's gone, the statue's been moved, that tunnel's collapsed, nobody's heard the bagpipes playing again. The new manager, he says, never heard the bagpipes, but he has had funny things happening. Like I said, 2020, they took it over. They took it over February 2020. March 2020, we're in lockdown. Can't start to do any work until late 2020 into 2021. And they said one of the first things they set up was the lights, new lighting system in the cellar. Electrician is in there putting the lights in. He comes upstairs, he's rubbing his side. So, oh, I can hardly breathe. He says, what's wrong? So I feel as though I've been punched in my stomach. So the manager says, look, sit down, I'll go make you a cup. Goes make some cuppa, comes back, the barman is still rubbing his side. Sorry, the electrician's still rubbing his side. And the manager says, are you okay? He says, I still feel as though I've been punched. He lifts his t-shirt up, and the manager said he looked like he had a bruise, as though somebody has punched him. Now, he won't go back into the cellar to finish the job off. So he sends two of his apprentices down to finish it. Job takes a lot longer. Not because the apprentices are not very good at the jobs. It was because when they were putting the wires in, wiring plugs, sockets, screwdriver on the shelf, wire everything in, go for the screwdriver. Screwdriver's gone. Tools, any tool they put down, it would disappear. They spent more time looking for tools than doing the jobs. So in the end, what they had to do was, one of them was standing at the side, holding all the tools, while the other one wired everything in. Another one, Jimmy, or whichever other ghosts in there, has got a taste for port. I was just talking to the manager a few weeks ago, asking if there's anything happening. He says, oh, there's still stuff happening. Stuff's still happening. And he says, we're going to get some port. He says, we get the spirits. He says, we put a couple of bottles of port on the bar. He says, putting everything away. He says, we'll go for the bottle of port. They've disappeared, just gone. He says, well, either find them a few hours later or a couple of days later in the cleaning cupboard where we keep all the cleaning stuff. And also, one of the barmen likes a glass of port. He says, get a glass of port on the night time. He says, they all can have a free drink on the night time. He says, get a glass of port. He's emptying the trip trays, collecting all the empty glasses. They go for his glass of port, and somebody drank it. He says, it's always port. So Jimmy must still have a taste for port. One thing I would say, if you do get a chance, if you are in Durham and you do get a chance to have a look in the bar, that it is, if you go downstairs, it is a real good place. Anyway, jumping on to this one is a UFO story. Now, this one, it was told by a friend I worked with about his brother. Yes, Pitton Crossroads. Now, his brother, back in the 70s, he was a taxi driver. And this happened on one Sunday night. You know, Sunday night, back then, the pub shut at 10:30. Last orders was 10:30. So most people were out the pubs by 11 o'clock. So he's waiting. He picks up two women to take back to Pitton. Drives them along. As he's driving along, everything's okay. Drops them off in Pitton Village. He's coming back on the photo there where you can see Pitton Crossroads, where you can see that orange sign on the crossroads. He's coming along when in the field on the right-hand side, he sees a large circular craft over the top telephone wires. He's driving along. He just stops just short of the junction. He's looking at it. He walks.
Oh, who's that? Who's
He
that?
walks.
It's a zombie.
It's a zombie.
He walks into the field. He's underneath this craft. After a few minutes, he starts to panic. He runs back, jumps in his car, starts driving back to the depot. As he's going along, he passes a police car. Police car quickly turns around after him, chases him, does catch up and stop him. And he's just sort of dazed and don't know what's happened. The police think that he's been attacked. So the police put Les in the car, in the police car, and one of the police officers takes the taxi back to the rank. Now, when they get back to the rank, the police car takes him up to the hospital to get him checked out and make sure he's okay, because they do think he's been attacked. They ask his boss, is Les, what's he like? Does he drink on the job? Has he got any problems? No, he will not drink on the job. He is one of the best taxi drivers I have. He says, I know that he will not be drunk when he comes to work. He says he's just acting strange, and he's saying about something strange in the sky. And so he's not one for fits of fancy and that, and telling tall tales. They took him to the hospital. The hospital says, yeah, he's a bit confused. There's no signs of any injuries. Now, a few days later, apparently 2 men from the ministry came to see him. MOD came to see him and were asking him about the craft. He said the craft was circular. with a triangle underneath. And apparently, one of the military men said, you know, really, you should not have walked underneath the craft because we do not know what these crafts can do, if they'll hurt you. Now, he did get the statement what he gave, they did give him a carbon copy of that statement. Sadly, I have not had a chance to see that statement. I would love to have seen it, but sadly, he died 6-7 years ago, and his brother passed away 4 years ago. The family do say somewhere in the house they do still have that copy, and I hope one day I'll get a chance to see that. Anyway, back to the ghostly stories. Now, if you come to Durham, if you go to Chesley Street, anybody like cricket in the audience? Because if you go, you've got Lumley Castle, and just past Lumley Castle is the Durham County Cricket Ground. Now, Lumley Castle, it was originally a manor house, and then in 1389, it was converted into the castle. When you go down and you see the castle, this was converted by Sir Ralph Lumley. He married a woman by the name of Eleanor Neville. But there is a story of Sir Ralph Lumley's first wife, which was Lily of Lumley. Now, Lily of Lumley lived at the castle with Sir Ralph Neville. Here's Sir Ralph Lumley. Sir Ralph Lumley, he went to battle in the wars. While he's away, two priests come to see Lily of Lumley to convert her. Lily will not change religion, so in a fit of anger, the two priests kill her and dump her body down a well. After that, people would see a figure of a woman wandering around Lumley Castle. When Sir Ralph Lumley comes back, the two priests come and tell him that Lily of Lumley's left him, gone to join the nunnery, and she doesn't want to see him again. Sir Ralph Lumley is devastated. He eventually marries. He eventually marries Eleanor Neville. But a few years later, he finds out that the priests were lying, and he kills the two priests. Now, Lumley Castle has on the grounds, there's supposed to be two priests wander around the grounds, and they're the two priests who apparently Sir Ralph Lumley killed. Now, there's one slight problem with that. Sir Ralph Lumley and Eleanor Lumley, they both married in 1380. Ralph Lumley, he was 20-year-old, and Eleanor Lumley was 18-year-old. He only ever married once. But here's the story of Lily of Lumley. So I don't know where she's come from. Lily of Lumley, she is supposed to wander around the castle. People have seen this woman wander around, and they link it to this Lily of Lumley. In Lumley Castle as well, you have now an escape room where you go in and you try and help Lily of Lumley escape. Now, Lumley Castle, so you've got the two priests, you've got Lily of Lumley. Also in the tower, I think you can just see the clock tower on that picture there. Yeah. Right above the main door, you can see the clock tower. Now, that clock tower there, when workmen are in there, they sometimes hear children laughing and carrying on. Check outside to see if there's anybody there, but there's nobody there. And Lily of Lumley, or whichever other ghost in Lumley Castle, has a passion for cricket, because there's a few times they've helped England cricket team win a few matches. Back in 2020, the England cricket team were playing India. And when they were staying there, the Indian cricket team was staying at the castle, at Lumley Castle. And one of the players, Harish Bhugal, he was in his room. He was terrified. He could feel as though, or sense as though somebody was in the room. He saw a figure coming from one wall, walking through and disappearing out the other. Eventually, he leaves Lumley Castle. He books himself into another hotel in Newcastle. He eventually becomes the Sky reporter for cricket. Whenever they came to Durham, he would book his own room in Newcastle or Durham. He said he would never stay again in Lumley Castle because of that night he got scared. 2025. Now, this is a good one. 2025, Bangladesh are playing cricket. Habul Bashir, the captain, he and three teammates, they're all in one room. When all of a sudden they hear noises. Now, the staff at Lumley Castle have been telling them these ghostly tales about Lily Lumley and the ghosts what are supposed to haunt the castle. On this night time, they're all in the room. They start to hear noises. The bedroom door, the handle's moving. All of a sudden, the bedroom door swings open. There's a ghostly figure standing there. They can hear chains rattling, and they can hear a screaming noise. All three of them back up in the corner. They're terrified, so they're backing away out the corner to try and get away from this figure. Bashir plucks up courage, Scooby-Doo style, wanders towards this figure, grabs at it, pulls a sheet off. It's one of his teammates playing a prank on him. I would have loved to be in that room when he given them all barrels of what he thought about them. But a week later, an Australian, Sean Watson, his room, he was that terrified in his room, he went to sleep on the floor of Brett Lee's bedroom because of something he saw in the room. So Lily Lumley, or whichever other ghost in there, has got a passion for cricket. Right. Most of you must have heard of the Lambton Worm. Now, Lambton Line Park, the Lambton Estate, that is only 2 miles south, 2 miles north of Lumley Castle. A well-known story, but there's more than one worm in Durham. 2 of them are not worms. 2 of them are stories about the Brawn, a large wild boar which terrorised the area of Branspeth. Branspeth is supposed to be now, the original name was Brawn's Path and eventually changed to Branspeth. Now, the first story of the Branspeth, round Ferry Hill, Spennymoor, Crookstale, this beast is terrorising the whole area. There's a man by the name of Hodge of Furry. He decides he is going to make amends and kill this beast. He tracks the beast, he finds where its track goes, and he sets about digging a large hole. When he digs this large hole, he covers it over with branches, grass, leaves. He puts beech mast nuts on because the beast's supposed to like this, so he covers it with beech mast. He climbs up a tree. He's hiding up in the tree with a spear. He watches the beast coming along. This big boar walks along. This boar falls into the hole. He jumps it down in the tree, jumps in the hole, and fights this beast, eventually killing it. So that is the end of the Brawn's Path. However, 100 years later, apparently, there was another one, Brawn's Path. This time, the hero who killed it was Sir Richard Pollard. Now, Sir Richard Pollard, he is a knight. He's down on your luck. He's got no money. Although he's a knight by name, he's a poor knight. Anyway, he comes back, and the Lord of Branspeth Castle has put a reward out, along with a reward from Durham Cathedral, from the bishops of Durham. And this is for anybody who can kill the Brawn, which is terrorising the area. Many people have tried, few people have succeeded. So Richard sets about. He does the same as what Hodge of Furry did. He finds out where the track of the beast is. He digs a big hole, covers it over with branches, covers it over with grass, leaves, beech mast on. He hides up in a tree. This time he has not got a spear. He has got a sword, a falconry type sword, which is a curved type of sword. Hides up in the tree. When he sees the beast coming, waits. Beast falls in the hole. He jumps in, starts fighting. The beast's injured, but it's not dead. Starts fighting it. This fight goes on for ages, nearly 8 hours. He's fighting. He eventually manages to kill the beast. He's exhausted. He climbs out the hole, rests himself against a tree. He's that exhausted, he falls asleep almost immediately. Now, while he's asleep, there's another knight walking along, sees the creature in the hole, sees Sir Pollard resting against a tree, so he sneaks into the hole, cuts the beast's head off, takes that to Durham Castle to claim the reward. Unbeknown to Pollard, Pollard's nearly 12, 14 hours. He wakes up the next day and he decides to go for the reward. I forgot to tell you, before Pollard climbed out the hole, he cut the tongue out of the beast's mouth. So anyway, he climbs out the hole. He goes to Durham Castle the next day to claim his reward. Knocks on the door. I've came for my reward. The lord at the castle says, well, I've paid it out. There's already a knight brought the head. He says, but I killed it. He says, you couldn't have. He says, there's another knight brought it. So Pollard's thinking, he says, well, can I go down and see the head? He says, well, if you want. So he takes him down, and Pollard says to the Lord, can you just open its mouth, and shows its tongue? The Lord's thinking, that's a funny request, but he appeases him, he opens the mouth, looks in, there's no tongue. The Lord says, that's funny, it's got no tongue. And Pollard says, yes, because I've got the tongue, and chucks it out. Now, the Lord of Bransmouth, he says, look, he says, I've been done. He says, the other night's conned us. He said, what I'll do, he says, if you come back tomorrow, I'm going to go see the bishops. I'm going to see if I can get another reward. So come back tomorrow, and he says, I'll tell you what's happened. So he goes away. Pollard comes the next day, and Lord of Bransmouth says, I'm sorry, the bishops of Durham will not pay you a ransom. He says, I've got a little bit of money. He says, I'll give you that money. And he says also to make up for the money what you should have gotten off the bishops. He says, I'm going to get me dinner. And he says, you get on your horse and ride around as much land as you can while I'm getting me dinner. Now, back then, the dinners were a long affair. So it would have given Pollard a lot of time to ride around a lot of land. Anyway, Pollard goes out, jumps on his horse. 10 minutes later, he's back. The Lord's saying, why are you back? He says, I've rode around all the land I need. The Lord's saying, wait, you can't have rode around that much land. He says, I haven't even started my first course. He says, you might as well. So no, he says, I've rode around all the land I need. So the Lord's a bit confused. He says, what have you done? So I rode around your castle. He said, I own your castle now. He said, all the land I ride around is mine. The Lord says, look, he says, you can't have my castle. But he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, all the land from here, right away through to Bishop Auckland, he says, that's all yours. And from then on, the Pollards owned all that land. Now, the Hodge of Furry, that story happened 100 years earlier than Sir Pollard, Richard Pollard. The Pollard family wanted a hero, a legend in their family. And because the story is very similar, just there's odd bits added on, I think they've just heard the story and thought, right, I'll just make that my own. Same with the sockburn worm. Now, the sockburn worm, that is very similar to the lantern worm. Sockburn worm, there is a worm terrorizing the area. And Sockburn, terrorizing this area. The John Conroy's, he goes away to fight in the wars. He's away a long time. When he comes back, he hears about this creature which is terrorizing the area. So he decides to go and fight it. The first time he goes and fights it, he's almost killed. after his wounds are healed and he's up to 90% full health, he goes to see a wise woman to see how he can kill this worm. The wise woman says, on your suit, your armor, put spearheads, broken swords. So when the snake or the creature, the worm, wraps itself around you, it cuts itself. Fight it in a fast-flowing river. So every time you cut a piece off, it cannot join back together and it'll flow away. So he goes, he has his suit armor made with all the spikes and spears on. He goes to fight it. He fights it and he kills it. Last thing he does when he cuts the head off, the head is supposed to be underneath a stone, a big grey stone, which is next to the croft near the tees. There's a stone there, a big grey stone. It's supposed to be underneath that stone. Now, the sword, again, he used a falconry sword to kill the beast. There was a tradition that the bishops of Durham, when they were sworn in, this happened right the way up to, this happened right the way up till 1856. There was a tradition, any new bishop who was sworn in, he would go to the River Tees on the Durham side of the River Tees at Croft. There's a little bridge. The bishop would cross so far across the bridge, and then a family member from the Conroys would come to the other side and meet them in the middle and pass the sword over, the falconry sword, and say he would swear allegiance to the new bishop. The bishop who's just retired, he retired at the beginning of this year, 2018, he took over. 2015, he took over. 2018, he took over. He'd known about the story and reenacted it, which was real nice. The sword, the falconry sword itself, is in the museum in Durham Cathedral. You can see the sword and it tells you the story about it. Now, like I said, the Lambton worm and the Suckburn worm are very similar. Only difference is when Sir Richard Lumley, Sir Lambton went to see the wise woman. In that story, the wise woman told him that when he goes to fight the worm, once he kills it, the first thing he saw what was alive, he must kill. Now, Sir Lambton told his father nobody to come out the castle until there was 3 sounds of the hunting horn sounded. First thing they had to do was let his main hunting dog out, because that hunting dog would run straight to him. Nobody else to come out the castle. What he's going to do, sound the horn. He knew the hunting dog would come to him. He had to kill the first living thing he saw. Sadly, he would kill the dog. He kills the beast, blows the horn. His father is that overwhelmed that his son's still alive. He forgets to let the dog out, and he rushes. First thing he sees is his father. He has to kill his father. He doesn't, his hunting dog gets to him before his father does, so he kills the hunting dog, hoping that is enough. For the next 10 generations, any male member of the Lumley family didn't die peacefully in their beds. They all died horrible deaths for the next 10 generations. And hopefully as a police to know that we are on to the last couple of stories. Right, the last one, this is a place which is near to me. It's only 2 miles from where I live, and it is Langley Hall. Now, Langley Hall, it was built in about the 16th century. It was built by Henry Le Scope. Eventually, that land was passed to the Lambton family. Now, this castle, when I was younger, we would go down to this castle. It's in a ruin. We'd go down there to have a look around. And it has a ghost story. The story is that one of the lords who lived in the castle, he fell on hard times. He was short of a bit of money. So he decides that if he marries one of the other local lords, if he marries one of their daughters, the daughter is going to have to bring a dowry, so that money's going to come to him. So he goes looking, he finds this girl whose father is happy for her to marry him. The one goes through. The girl, the daughter, the one he's marrying is not very happy. She does not like him. She thinks he's a real awful person. Anyway, on the wedding night, she leaves him and runs away. The Lord, realizing that if she goes back to her father and says that she doesn't like him, he's going to lose the dowry. So he goes chasing after her. She is in there's a horse-drawn carriage. She is in that. He goes chasing after her. As he's chasing after her, he catches up to her. He orders the coachman to follow him. He takes him to this marshy area. He kills the coachman, chops his head off, and he watches as the coach sinks slowly into the marsh. Now, the road, what he's supposed to come down, people every so often are supposed to see a horse and cart come flying down that road. There was one a few years ago, there was a car coming up. Family, a group of friends in the car, they're in the 40s, they're driving up the road. As they come around the corner, the lane, what leads down from Langley Hall, they see this black coach shooting across the road over the other side. The person driving the car quickly stops and just says to the others, "Did you see that?" And all says, "Yes, we saw the horse and cart." That horse and cart is supposed to be seen quite often going through there. There is other people who do see horsemen, but the horseman is headless. There's once two young girls, they are walking back to Langley Park. As they're walking down, they see a shadow. It looks like a man on a horse. They think one of the farmers is out with the horse. So as they're watching, they realise this farmer has got no head. That freaks them out and they start run home. And they said they would not walk up that lane for quite a while because of the shock of that. Another time, a couple of friends of mine, they were out lamping. Dogs out to take your lamp, shine, send the dogs down to get the rabbits. They're going down. They see somebody on a horse. They think the farmer's out. They think the farmer is after them because they're poaching. That's what they're doing, they're poaching. They're hiding and they watch this person on a horse going backwards and forwards. They realise this person has not got a head. That freaks them out. One of them says, after that, he never went poaching again. He says, that was it. He says, I could not go back again because he says, I was that terrified. Now, that road, there's a few ghosts on that road. If you come a bit further up, Langley Hall is right at the bottom of the bank. If you come about just short of a mile up the road, you come to a turn-off, which that road would take what we call the top road. Now up there was a farmstead called Standalone. And back in the 60s, there was a murder happening there. Farming family, the husband, he was having an affair with somebody. His wife found out and she wanted a divorce. The farmer went to Newcastle, sorry, not Newcastle, to Gateshead. He hired two men to kill his wife. Two men came, killed his wife. The body was supposed to be buried in a wood just outside of Gateshead called Beggar's Wood. Now, people now, when they're driving down the road, when it's a foggy night, sometimes see a figure of a woman standing. The house was knocked down must be in the 70s. But where the house stands, people have seen a figure of a woman just standing there. Some people, when they're driving along, do get a fright. I mean, I've drove that road many times, foggy nights, and that I've never seen anything, but people do see it. A bit further along the road, there is Jaw Blades. Now, Jaw Blades, it is called Jaw Blades because back in the 1800s, one of the pits, one of the mines, the drift mines, what was there, they found the jaw blade of a wheel there. That is why it's called jaw blades. But there is a dip in the road. This dip in the road, people when they're driving along have sometimes had the feeling they saw somebody's in the car. Sometimes when they look in the mirror, they see this figure of a man sitting. The man is from the 1800s. Jaw blades itself, where the house is, that used to be a coaching inn. That would have been one of the first houses in Burnhope where I live. Just outside of there, the car's coming through, goes down this dip, they look in the mirror, they see this figure of a man sitting this in the back. People freak out, fly through. Again, I've gone that way many a times. I've never seen anything. Now, one final story, then the night a funny one. Shincliffe. Shincliffe, the meaning of Shincliffe is haunted hill or demon hill, because people think that there is or was a demon or imp which used to live underneath the bridge there. That was back in the medieval times. But 1926, there was an incident. What happened there? Shincliffe Lane was haunted for about 2 or 3 months. People driving down the lane, cars, there wasn't very many cars about at the time, but the cars are driving down the lane. This ghostly figure would shoot across in front of the car. They would hear chains rattling and they would hear a screaming type noise. Cars would screech to a stop, or sometimes would skid it and have a crash. Cyclists come down, they would see the same thing. Cyclists would fall off, hurt themselves. Pedestrians, instead of walking down that lane, the pedestrians would rather walk 2 miles further around so they didn't have to go down there to see this ghost, what was coming across. Anyway, eventually the police do come out. Bit like the day you report a crime, the police turn up 2 or 3 months later. Similar here. Police officer, he comes down. Come down to investigate. As he's coming up Shincliffe Lane, this ghostly figure shoots out in front of him. He gets a shock. He can hear the chains rattling. He can hear a scream noise. He falls off his bike. He's in a heap on the ground. He doesn't know what's happening. Anyway, come on, I'm a police officer. Show a bit courage here. Gets himself up and starts to investigate. He hears laughter up the bank side. He's heading up. He hears people running away. He gets up the top where he's heard the laughter. He finds that somebody has attached a rope from one side of the road on a tree to the other side. They've put a pulley system on. On this pulley system, they're putting a heavy duffel coat. Over the top of the duffel coat, they've put a white sheet. Underneath the sheet, they've put in chains. And they're putting a tin can with a hole in, so when they're pulling it backwards and forwards, it makes a screaming sound. 4 kids are eventually caught for setting that up. Four young teenagers had sort of been having a laugh, sending the ghost backwards and forwards. I do think that is a real corker one. That would be something I would do. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Any questions?
Much indeed. That was excellent. Thank you for that. And I'll put my hat back on. There you go. Spot doesn't shine. Good evening, Andrew. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.